All right, a little bonus I have is how to sew a zipper fly if the fly facing is a separate piece, like on the Ash jeans. I thought I'd show you that just in case you're just like, I just need to know how to sew the pair of jeans I have with the zipper fly setup that it has. All right, so here we go. So we have our pants here, and we have our right front and left front. This is right side up. You're going to need the notch on the pattern piece denoting the seam allowance right here at the center front, or a center front notch. And then you need the little dot or whatever indicates the end of your zipper there. You're going to need that as well. All right, and then you're going to need a fly facing, which is the curved piece, and it needs to be interfaced. Mine's mostly interfaced. And then the fly extension as well, and you might want to interface that as well. This is just a linen canvas, so if you're using something heavyweight, maybe you don't want to interface it. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to serge or finish this center front seam on both of these pieces, and then I'm also going to overlock this edge right here and this edge right here of this fly facing, and we're going to also sew this fly extension across, right sides together at 1/4 of an inch. That's the seam allowance on this one. I'm going to turn it right side out, and then I'm going to overlock these straight edges as well. So I'm going to overlock all of that right now. All right, so I have all my pieces overlocked here, and I'm going to trim the tails, and I'm going to secure this tail to the inside here. Just get it nice and tidy. All right. And so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to sew our zipper to our extension. And this is kind of the key with this style, is the seam allowance that you use right here, because it can't be the whole seam allowance that is at your center front, because if it is, then your zipper is going to show. And even still, this isn't really enough to prevent it from showing a whole lot, but you need as small seam allowance as you can get by. So I'm going to use 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Now I'm going to line up my zipper to the bottom here, just like this. All right, so we're going to put our extension right side up, which makes it look like this. So this is the fold edge here. And I'm going to put my zipper tail down here, lined up to the bottom. And I'm going to sew at 1/4 inch seam. Just enough so my serging doesn't show. Just like that. And remember, you need loose zipper tail down here, because you need to be able to top stitch around your fly here in the coming steps. So don't line the teeth up to the bottom of your zipper. You need some space right here. All right, there we go. All right, and now we're going to attach this to the right front. So we're going to put this right sides together, and again, you're going to make sure that you stay at that same seam allowance. And also you want to cover up any stitching that you have, like you don't want that seam to show. So make sure you stitch to the left of that. So line up your extension to your waist and sew to the left of your stitching. I'm sewing like right up against it. I'm going to move my zipper head now above, just like that. Just like that. All right, now we're going to flop it open, and we're going to top stitch. Just like that. All right, so here we are. We have our zipper attached to the right front right now. My stitching is a little sloppy, but it is this linen cotton canvas as well. All right, and so we're going to clip this seam right here, just like below that, like that. So now that it's loose, all right. All right, so now we have our fly facing, this guy right here, and we're going to put this right sides together at our center front here, and we're going to sew at the full seam allowance. So for this one, it's 5/8 of an inch. So you want to sew on the seam line or wherever your center front seam is. For, you know, there's that notch up there. I think this one's actually 1/2 inch, so I'm going to do 1/2 inch. Whatever it is, you're sewing from that notch, that center front notch. All right, just like that. I promise it's straighter than it looks. I don't know why interfacing always makes it look wiggly. All right, and so now we're going to clip into the seam allowance here, basically kind of like when we're clipping up to the dot. All right. All right, now we're going to press this facing to the inside like this. So you're going to need your iron and you're going to press it. What I'm going to do is first press it like this, nice and flat, and then I'm going to turn it to the inside and press it right on that edge. All right, there we go. So I folded it and put it right on that edge there, right? And now we're going to top stitch this just to the opening down here. Just like that. All right. Now we're going to sew our front crotch seam here, the lower crotch curve here. We're going to sew these together. So we'll line these up. And we're going to sew these together. I'm going to start from the bottom. All right, and so when I get up here, like up when I'm getting close to the top here, I'm going to go just to the left of this top stitch. I accidentally used the wrong side of this, and so I had already put a dot here, so sorry about that. So you're going to have to ignore that dot, but we're going to go just to the right of this stitching here, best I can. Pretty much still staying at my seam allowance. Just like that. See, there we go. Like that. All right, and so now you're going to take your center front waist right here and you're going to line it up to the other notch over here. Because remember, we used a smaller seam allowance on this first edge. So we still have a little bit left. So there's my center front notch right there. So we're going to line that up. And that's all the overlap you're going to get. So you want to make sure that you take it. And I'm going to pin mine closed. Maybe I don't want to do that. We'll see. I'm just going to pin mine closed down here. All right, and now we're going to put our zipper to our fly facing here. So we're going to keep this lined up. So I'm kind of holding this all shut here. And so I'm going to take this and we're going to sew these together. And if you have a zipper foot on, I'd put 2 rows of stitching, one on the far edge of the tape and one closer to the teeth, but not butted up all the way against the teeth, just closer to them so that you can get 2 rows of stitching in there since it's a high stress area. I'll try and put one more in here. But I don't have a zipper foot on, so. All right. So now we have our zipper attached there. All right, so now I'm going to sew my decorative fly curve here. And you need to make sure you keep the extension here out of the way, like that. So I'm gonna carefully pin this and then I'm gonna pull the extension out of the way. So we're going to pin this just to the outer pant here, and I'm gonna have to move these pins because they're in the way of my top stitch line, but we're just trying to make sure that we get it attached to the front there like that. See, so we're pinning this fly facing to the front here, and I'm gonna take this pin out and I'm gonna move my fly shield away like this. And now we're going to top stitch around this curve. I like to peek under there, see if I'm still on the right track. And then I'm going to go all the way to the center front. If you want to put a second row of top stitching, you can. You can push your seam, your crotch seam toward the right front. All right, and so now that I've got to the right front there, I'm going to make sure my crotch seam is pressed towards the right front, or to the left front, sorry, left front. And now I'm going to top stitch all the way down the whole curve here. Like that. So we just came around this curve and then we went down the rise there. And you can see that little pucker, and that's because I'm pulling my extension over. So we're going to let that, and remember I have that accidental dot right there too. All right, so now once I let this relax, it looks a lot better right there. All right, so take these pins out here. All right, and so now is the time where you're going to add any extra top stitching, and you need to add your bar tack to secure your extension behind the zipper here. So the very least you need to do a bar tack right here to put your extension to the back of the fly facing there, which is right there. You can feel it through the, there's a little bump right there, right there. So if you want to do extra top stitching, then now's a good time. And it's a good time to kind of maybe push this side under a little bit more, make sure that nothing is poking out. So I'm going to go from here up, and then I'm going to go straight across. My zipper stop is way up here, so I have some room. I'm going to go straight across and then do a bar tack. That's kind of my signature thing I do. All right, so I'm pushing this under a little bit. I'm not trying to distort it. I'm just trying to make sure that it's tucked in there really well. It can be really thick here if you're doing denim. All right, now I'm gonna go straight across. And then now I'm gonna do my fake bar tack. Just like that. So at the very least you need that little bar tack. All right, there we go. There's our zipper, and you can see it doesn't overlap very much right here. So it is something that can pull out, but I feel like we did a pretty good job of securing it. And because this is a non-stretch, it will look pretty good. Here we go. Here's how it looks up close. That's what the other side looks like. There's that bar tack right there. A little bit of a pleat in my seam allowance there. That's kind of potential because see my seam allowance got yoinked over a little bit when I went to do the top stitching. It's not affecting anything on this side, but it could happen on the inside. And then I would trim up these threads. All right, and there you go. That's how you do one of those kinds of zipper flies.